A lot of the time and attention right now is being focused on the events here at the Capitol on January the 6th. I think over time we've lost focus on what occurred in Portland over the summer. And we have to remember, unlike January 6th, which was just one day, several hours of one day, what occurred in Portland, which was the attack of a federal courthouse, was ongoing for 30, 60, 90 days. And of course, there's still sporadic attacks on that courthouse as well. And so the two are both similar and very different. Similar in the sense of these are federal properties where law and justice work is undertaken, both at the Capitol and the courthouse. But then very different. The Capitol is obviously the Capitol and the site of several hours of violent activity, whereas law enforcement in Portland and places like Seattle and elsewhere, it's almost on a daily basis that they have to deal with this. And so I'm a little disappointed that we don't see more elected officials, frankly, coming out and denouncing the violence that is occurring outside of the Capitol. They should certainly be focused on what occurred on January the 6th, but that isn't the only extremism that we have here in the U.S. And to be silent on one and very vocal on the other is in some ways hypocritical, and it's not being very consistent. Without a question, they were different. We got questioned during the summer about are these not aren't these not peaceful protesters? Even though we would show video, we would show pictures, we would show images where it's clearly not being peaceful, it's very, very violent. And instead of denouncing that violence, instead of coming out very proactively, what did we see from mainly elected officials on the left? We saw them attack law enforcement. They decided to attack members of the law enforcement community of DHS, saying, well, you were a little too heavy-handed on how you dealt with someone trying to throw an IED at you, or it was this or that. They never wanted to address the actual violent activity. And so if you fast forward to January the 6th, it was almost the complete opposite and reversal. And I have to think it's because of the two various different natures of who was protesting. Because obviously you had some on the far right on January 6th and then some on the far left throughout the summer. And so the media and some elected officials are obviously playing politics with how they talk about extremism. I think what we need to keep our eye on is, I think there's a key word in that report talking about lethality. And when you talk about lethality, yes, I mean, if you just look at the stats, there are certain groups that are more lethal than others, but lethality doesn't tell the whole story in my picture, in my view. If you look at the events of the summer, while there were deaths, and every death is tragic, a lot of the destruction that we saw to small businesses, to communities, there is an economic price to be paid there that is not measured in just lethality and deaths. So what I always talked about is, yes, we need to be concerned about people dying, but we also need to be concerned about the economic security of the country. And having small businesses looted and burned night after night after night is also very damaging to the U.S. And so I'm a little disappointed it doesn't talk about that. But again, OD&I, that's not the nature of that report. But I think there certainly should be something included in there that talks beyond just the lethality of certain groups. You can still be very violent. You can still cause a lot of destruction, a lot of consequence without killing individuals.